this is going to be great.
Welcome to the White House Pod with David A.R. White.
Roger, do you know that we have an unbelievable guest on today?
Yeah.
I mean, a Hollywood legend.
Legend.
I mean,
Absolutely.
I grew up watching this man.
Don't blame me for growing up.
When I was 19 and I got to Hollywood, I actually got to a party, and there he was, and I was I was starstruck. I think I literally asked him like 4,000 questions about the show that he was on. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm proud to introduce this man, John Richard Schneider. I had no idea your middle name was Richard.
Yes, that's true. That's me.
Does anybody ever tell you? Does anybody ever pronounce this, or say your full name to you, John? By the way, thanks for being
my
here.
mother when I was in trouble, and my wife would occasionally, maybe only two times in 8 years. John Richard Schneider.
Really?
But she had to be really mad. All I had to know, all she had to say for me to know that she was mad was she would say, "Okay, John."
And then you knew your middle name was coming right after it?
No. It was just that was moderately angry. But if Richard got put in there,
yeah, then it's
I was toast. I was toast.
All right, so John Schneider, you look for all the people who are on Spotify, radio, iTunes right now who can't see John Schneider. Click over to our YouTube and take a look at how good looking John Schneider is. You never age, John.
Oh, come on.
And seriously, you never age.
You haven't aged since 1,000 Questions either. And by the way, everybody, we've been friends since that moment. I believe there wasn't much time between then and what was the first movie? Second Chances?
No, it was called Hidden Secrets, John.
Hidden Secrets. I knew it was
in
2 words.
2005 we shot that movie. No, 6.
Right.
No. It was actually our Pureflix's first movie. Was and
oh, is that right?
That's
I
right.
didn't know that. It was a great movie.
It was a great movie. You're amazing in it. If you haven't seen it, it's a great movie. And I got to hang out with John. But I feel like I'm trying to remember, because you were friends with DDM. Like you were friends in we had similar friends through some of this.
Yeah, well,
But I don't know if I ever met you before that. I met you actually, but I did meet you like literally when I was 19 years old in D. David Morin's kitchen at a party.
Wow. Right.
And I feel like I stalked you and I asked you Dukes of Hazzard questions because that's what I grew up on.
Well, what a shock.
I know. This never happens to you anywhere,
no,
right?
these are things that happen.
Nobody ever asks a question about that.
They never do.
But the funny thing was too is here we are doing Hidden Secrets. When you were doing Hidden Secrets for the first time, you had just started directing, right? Had you first started? I remember you were like had grabbed a camera and you were like doing a film while you were shooting Hidden Secrets. Exactly. Yeah. You're like, hey, I did a whole scene while I drove over here.
Yep, I was doing independent filmmaking. I became a director on Dukes, so no, I'd been doing it for a long time. However, what had just happened is we were switching over into the digital world where you could actually get a camera where you could film something, and then in 6 months or a year or whenever you were done with the project, if you were ever done with the project, you could show it up on the big screen. So prior to that, honestly, in the 60s and 70s, I was a guy with a Super 8 camera, a 16 millimeter camera. I was always looking for new technology so that I could make my own movies. So when we did your movie, yes, I filmed all this dialogue in the expedition on the way there, and then on the way back, I parked because the sunset was really nice. I parked and I did all my coverage for some scene I don't remember. But that movie's called Collier and Company.
Yeah.
It's a car chase.
It's a fun one.
It's called a Southern horsepower comedy. But it's independent, which is, love it.
A Southern horsepower comedy.
Yeah. A 19-year-old ought to like that.
I would agree. I would 100% agree with that. All right. So where are you from, John? Where are you originally
I'm from? Mount Kisco, New York, which is Westchester County, New York. On one side of me, I got AOC, On the other side of me, I got Alec Baldwin, so I'm lucky to be here. Yeah, so I got her and not Yonkers, wherever the heck she's from, and then Baldwin from Bedford, and I'm from Mount Kisco, right in the middle. So I'm about as southern as a slice of pizza.
Yeah, that's how. Okay, so you grew up. You grew up playing music, obviously, because you're an unbelievable musician. When did you? Where did you go after high school to get into the movie industry? Was it the music industry you got into first, or the movie industry?
Well, I got into theater when I was 8. In New York, and then moved to, my mother worked for IBM, so did theater and local theater, and then moved to Atlanta when I was 14. So I went to middle school in New York and 3 years of high school in Atlanta. Did every conceivable theater group in Atlanta you could do. Did as many films as I could get into, which was not a lot back in the 70s. Burt Reynolds was there, but I was 14 years old.
Were you in a Burt Reynolds movie?
I was, but it's yes, I was in Smokey and the Bandit. But I'm just standing there. No, I'm just standing. That's a whole other, I'll tell you that story in a minute. But because I came from a musical theater background, I wanted to be in the movies. It was like I really felt like God said, yeah, you're here watching movies, but you're really supposed to be up there. That's what I built you for. So go there. So by the time I graduated high school a year early, I went to summer school 2 years in a row because I felt high school was in the way of my opportunity that was coming any moment. And the opportunity for, I auditioned for The Great Santini, Welcome Back, Kotter, and the Dukes of Hazzard all in the same week.
How long had you been in L.A.? You'd moved to L.A. at that point.
I'd never been to L.A.
Wait. Where did you audition?
Atlanta.
In Atlanta for all three of those?
Atlanta was a hotbed. It still is, obviously, but Atlanta was a hotbed largely because of Burt Reynolds in the 70s. So
I didn't even know that. Obviously I know Burt Reynolds, or I knew Burt Reynolds.
Oh, but Macon County Line.
But did he live there? He didn't live there. He was living in.
No, but he shot in Savannah. He had an affinity for Savannah and for Atlanta.
Okay.
And I'm not sure, but we became great friends later. I'm not sure why. I wish I'd asked him that, because he was a Floridian.
Yeah.
But anyway, so by the time Dukes of Hazzard came around, I should have been in my senior year in high school, but I'd already graduated, or I wouldn't have been able to even audition for it.
And you were 18? Were you 18?
To that inner voice.
Were you 17 or 18 at that?
When I auditioned, 18, but I was out of high school doing a musical theater cabaret show, which has a whole different connotation back then. It was kind of a dinner theater called the Manhattan Yellow Pages at the Omni International Hotel, where I auditioned for the Dukes of Hazzard at the Georgia State Film Commission office.
Wow.
Yeah, so
okay, did you audition for? Did you have friends that were auditioning with you as well? Because obviously you were in theater groups, and I would imagine you knew people who were your same age range.
Oh yeah, and well, I lied. They were looking for people 24 to 30 from rural Georgia.
Okay.
And I was 18 from Westchester County, New York.
Yeah.
They were looking for people with like dirt track experience, racing experience. So I told them that I was 24 from Snellville, Georgia, and I had just come in first place in my school, the Georgia School of High Performance Driving. And,
you saw the casting director this?
None of which was true.
You told the casting director this, or who did you tell? Yeah. Okay, because when you
I walked in with a 6-pack of beer. I walked in with a 6-pack of Pabst Blue Ribbon, and I opened one up and started to sip it. I said, "Oh shoot, I'm sorry. You want one?" And because as now directors, someone can't come in all elegant and then convince you they live under a bridge. They've got to come in, and you got to be like kind of freaked out.
Well, what did you do about your resume though? Because your resume had to have shown.
I didn't give it to
theater.
him. I didn't give it to him. Okay. I didn't give it to him.
You're also, by the way, you're tall. You're 6'4", 5", 6'5"?
6'3". I was 6'4" back in the
You're 6'3", but you're a tall 6'3". I always feel
I'm a tall 6'3".
Yeah, I always feel
It's a dry heat.
incredibly short standing next to you. So I believe, so it makes sense of why they thought you were older though than 18 years old.
Well, when again, as a director now, and as an actor, Holy Man Undercover and all that you do, which is so great, so much fun, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression.
Yep.
So when I walked in with my 6-pack of beer and my fuzzy hair and I mean, I gave them exactly what I thought they wanted. There were 2 producers in there. I gave him exactly what he wanted, and I gave the other one, over my dead body will this hick ever be in my television show. So they were completely split.
Wow.
Right down the center. But the one that said, my God, later he said, my God, when you walked in the room, Bo Duke had walked in the room. That was it. They didn't give it to me. I had to fight for it. And then CBS, of course, had to okay it. But it was, thank God, his name was Phil Mandelker. And he's been gone a long, long time. Hill Mandelker was his company. Leonard Hill, Phil Mandelker. And the other guy, I don't care.
Did the other guy go away, or did the other guy still was a producer on the show? Was he a writer?
He was a producer on the show for a while.
Was he a writer? Did he create it or something?
No. He was just like a kind of a co-showrunner, I guess.
Yeah, I would imagine he would have written though.
Yeah, it was no. He was not a writer. The writer was Guy Waldron. They had ordered CBS had ordered 5 shows. There was no pilot. They ordered 5 shows to be filmed in and around Atlanta in 1978. Thinking really that these are city folks. They had no concept of. And by the way, when I say I'm from Westchester County, it's a very green, very rural part of New York. It's New York State. But these folks really had. Not only did they have no notion that the Dukes of Hazzard could possibly be a hit, they never thought it would last past the first 1 or 2 episodes. They didn't think that anybody would even see it.
Wow.
To show you how out of touch they were then and still are now.
Okay, so you get cast as the Dukes of Hazzard, as Bo Duke, obviously. When you go, Tom, it's Tom
Wopat.
Wopat.
Tom Wopat.
Now, when did you meet Tom Wopat? Like right away, before you guys were shooting, or
we did not get? I did not get cast as Bo. I was auditioning for 5 weeks. Imagine that. Network read for the same show every Friday for 5 weeks.
With just different people in the room?
Yeah, with different people, with Lorenzo Lamas, with Dennis Quaid, with different actors, same executives in the room. Oh, it was. We'll go to lunch and we'll talk about
I do want to talk about this. I've never talked about this with you, actually, because there were
only 3 networks. So when they were casting people,
no, it was a massive thing. It
was a big deal, and they were also casting chemistry. Mm-hmm. They weren't casting.
Wait, so you were reading with Lorenzo Lamas as to see if he would be Bo Duke, or who you had Bo Duke?
He would be Luke, or I think I read for Luke a time or two. It's been a minute.
Okay.
But yeah, so these people came in. It was great. It was great fun, but it was, I had to keep being this guy from Snailville, Georgia, who came in first place at the Georgia School of High Performance Driving, who was 24, right. Who was 18,
right, and
from New York. But I still could drive.
So when did Tom come in finally?
So what happened is everybody was playing off of each other every Friday, and it was like they were maybe going to bag it and not do it at all, but someone had remembered this guy named Tom Wopat from an audition in New York. He was doing a show called I Love My Wife on Broadway. And they remembered him from the audition, and they brought him out. And as soon as Wopat and I met each other, we had been friends, or we had been like related our entire lives. It was chemistry from...
Wow.
It was amazing because we could not possibly be 2 more different people.
Yeah.
But there was something about Tom and John that it was like, those guys have been in a car together. Those guys have ridden bicycles together. Those guys probably delivered newspapers together. Yeah, there was just something about us, and still is when you see us together.
How often do you guys get together?
Not very often. I'm going to see him in a couple of weeks. We're going to do a Comic-Con.
Okay. Is that the only times you see him normally? Is that the Comic-Con?
Yeah, pretty much. He lives in rural New Jersey, and I'm down here in Louisiana, and we may run into each other in Nashville. That would be fun. But you know, I'm not on the way for anywhere for him, and he's not on the way anywhere for me. But I love him to death.
How many years? Okay, so what? By the way, what year was the strike of Dukes of Hazzard? I'm literally fanning out here of, and I know you have answered these questions for 4,000 years, but I also feel good that I've known you for so long, and I've never even asked you these questions.
You haven't asked.
I
believe it was 1983.
That's when the strike happened. Is that what happened?
It's interesting that you call it a strike.
Well, I mean, like, because
why do you call it a strike?
I know, because all I remember is this: I liked Bo and Luke Duke, right?
Well, yeah,
I'm watching them, and then all of a sudden, the next week, two new guys come in, the cousins of Bo and Luke Duke, from what I remember. That's good.
Right.
I'm remembering back a while, so I could be completely off here, but I remember going, "Who are these guys?" And what's wrong with the show here? And then they stayed on the show, and I could barely even bring myself to watch the show with those guys. No offense to those guys, I don't even know who they are now.
Well, a minute ago you asked about did I have friends in Atlanta that auditioned for Dukes of Hazzard? Well, somebody that I've known longer than I've known Tom Wopat is Byron Cherry, who was Coy Duke. He was one of those two people you're talking about. So no
offense to Coy.
When we did not come back, and that's an important distinction, when we did not come back, I recommended that they find Byron Cherry and bring him in.
What year is this? Number 3?
Thousands of people auditioning, but they wound up with, guess who? Byron Cherry.
Is this year 3? You had done 3 years? Or year 4?
No. I think it was 4 or 5.
Okay.
Yeah, 4 or 5.
And why did we not come back? Was it?
Well, it's because in 1982, Warner Brothers grossed over $200 million from their own mouth, over $200 million in Dukes of Hazzard merchandising. Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
So it was huge.
Huge.
And we had not gotten what we felt our contract said we should get. It's the difference between gross and net.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
You know, we know
as independent producers what that is.
Yeah. So we asked, I had an accountant.
Well, yeah, an agent
like,
too.
Hey, guys,
right?
Guys, so we asked nice, I forget the movie, but said we asked nice like 3 times and said, if we have to ask again, we're going to ask with a lawyer. And they said, go ahead. So this was on hiatus.
Yeah.
Right. So we never walked off, and I would never. So the lawyer got in touch with them, and what we thought was going to be an easy discussion turned into a terrible thing, a terrible battle, and it was over merchandising. It was over T-shirts and underoos and General Lees and wristwatches and all that kind of stuff, because they had just publicized they had made this incredible amount of money on the Hollywood Reporter and Variety. So we couldn't just sit around and go, oh, well, gee golly, that's okay. Yeah. No, I'm from Westchester County, New York. Wait a minute. You made $200 million and I got 60 grand and I've got 6%. Something's wrong.
Wow.
So anyway.
Did you and Tom do the same deal? Did you guys come together kind of like the Friends cast? They were all like, we have to be paid the same for...
that was all after us. No. That's a contract negotiation.
Yeah.
This was not a contract negotiation. This was trying to get the studio to stick to the contract we had.
Oh. Wow.
Yeah, we weren't saying you made a bunch of money and you want more.
Right. You're actually just saying you didn't write us a check that you said you would.
We did not get what we felt was our contractual the right numbers, and we had lawyers, we had all kinds of things.
Did they ever correct? So they bring in those guys,
Coy Vance.
For how long did they last? They didn't last.
18 shows. 18 shows.
Yeah, not quite a season, right? Because there's 22.
Right. We were 24 then.
24 episodes per season.
Yeah.
So they lasted about 3/4 of a season, and then they go, fine. How did they get you guys back then? Who did?
We came back from the NASCAR circuit. You know, we had our orange jumpsuits on, which now would be a whole different kind of circuit, and took our helmets off, and there we were. Bo and Luke were back. I think the episode was called "The Return of Bo and Luke."
Yeah, but how did they? But who finally did they? Did you have to go meet the head of Warner Brothers or the head of?
Well, we were friends. I knew the head of Warner Brothers.
Did they finally correct it though?
No.
So how did? So what happened?
Finally,
they said they were
finally
correcting it,
happened, and you know this may be appropriate now, but what finally happened is that, see, I was 23.
Yeah, I mean,
and I thought being right meant something.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I really did. I'm very altruistic. I still am. When it became apparent, and it wasn't a mean thing, because, like I said, the folks at Warner Brothers were friends. Business Affairs were friends of ours. I mean, we all knew each other, even though I was so young. But when it became apparent, here's the deal that happened. We had a publicist that said the following: Bo and Luke won't be cheated, and neither will we. So he used the word cheated, which pushed, this is a great lesson for everyone who is listening. If you use a war word and you push somebody back into a corner and you give them no chance but to come out swinging, they will. They have no choice. Pardon me, no choice.
Yeah.
So when we use that word, my friends, they were my friends, said, look, it doesn't matter who's right. It doesn't matter who's wrong. I'm not saying we're wrong and you're right. I'm not saying we're right and you're wrong. What I'm saying is that we have no wiggle room in the word cheated. So we will have to cancel the show if you guys don't come back. And we had all of our friends on the show, right? We had all of our friends. We had fans we averaged a 28 share. We averaged 28 million people a week for 7 years, even with the 18 shows that you had to try to watch. But so when I realized, okay, this is not a threat. This is not some big thing. This is a friend of mine saying, look, this is how this is going to go down. So either you want to come back, which you absolutely can, or we keep pissing on each other's boots. So we came back. And in so doing, I mean, you know, now I think at that point I'm 24 years old. And the 63-year-old in me right now is very, very proud that 24-year-old thought about the jobs of his fellow actors and his crew, not his crew, but, you know, the crew members on the show, more than I thought about me. So I'm proud of that time. So you got to be very careful what words you use. Had we said, you know, the Duke boys don't appreciate clerical errors, and neither do we, then, you know,
could have fixed.
We would have met somewhere, and they would have said we would have had a couple of $1 million rather than lost a couple of $1 million at 23 and 24 years old.
Wow.
Yeah. So there was a lot going on, but it was not a contract negotiation.
Got it.
It was not two guys joining together and saying, we want more. No, it was, hey, we want what you said we should get.
Was in it. Okay, so it lasted, you guys went 10 years with that show, right? 2001
7 years. Smallville was 10.
Oh, got it. Okay.
That's that other show I did.
That's right. That's right. You're
and
Superman's
that other one I did
dad.
Only lasted 8. You know, the 8-year show is the Tyler Perry Haves and Have-Nots.
All right. So, how many? You have at least 3 runs of shows for long periods of times that most actors can only dream of, maybe even doing one. Right. So you got 3 of them. With all of these, is Duke's hold? I'm sure they all hold a different place in your heart. But which one sticks out to you the most? Is it Dukes because you were just come into it, or did you like being Superman's dad? Or
Dukes was the most fun.
Yeah.
I think Smallville was the most important. And I believe the haves and have-nots as an actor was my opportunity to show my chops, or pardon me, find my chops. So as an actor, haves and have-nots was hands down the best. As television that I think actually makes people's lives who watch it better, especially if they have children, Smallville. I think Jonathan Kent was the best dad on television. As far as loving life and grabbing every single moment of it and teaching people that it's okay to have fun, there's nothing like the Dukes of Hazzard. And it's okay to have fun with your family. It's okay to watch the same show at the same time. I have more people mention to me about how, not necessarily an episode of Dukes, but how they used to watch it every Friday night with their grandparents. You know, they have a family reference to it rather than a storyline reference to it. And I think that is very, very important. I think, you know, if the current nonsense wasn't going on, then Dukes of Hazzard would be touted right now as one of the most popular television shows of all time. And it is anyway, whether they tout that or not. I mean, you couldn't fill a room with Hill Street. You couldn't fill a bathroom at an Exxon station with Hill Street Blues fans right now. But you can still fill a pretty good sized room or stadium with Dukes of Hazzard fans.
How is that when you go to like a Comic-Con today, and the Dukes of Hazzard fans come out? Are you signing Confederate flags?
Oh yeah, well, rebel flags.
Rebel flags, is that what we're called?
Absolutely.
And,
I mean, we make yeah, absolutely.
And how, like, what
I'm
are
a New Yorker that calls it Lincoln's War.
What are the lines? What are the lines? Are they lines around? I would imagine just the lines around the block. How often do you and Tom get together for one of these? Is it, or do you do them separate, or is it only that we show up together?
No. We had done them separate for a while. We do them together now, and Catherine joins on most of them. The last year and a half has actually the last 2 years I've bowed out of all that kind of thing. We had health issues here, obviously at home. But I want to brag on my relationship for a moment. In the 8 years that Alicia and I had, we did 11 feature-length movies and 14 albums.
This is your, yep, yes.
And before I met her, she produced this movie. This is Autofocus.
Yeah?
Yeah, so this is, this is big stuff here. This is Paul Schrader worked for my wife. Okay? And I'm so proud of her.
Yeah. How, John, 11 movies. You produced and starred. Did you star in all 11?
She produced everyone. I directed everyone. I don't produce. Numbers don't mean much to me.
Did you star in everyone and direct them?
No. I starred in a couple of them because I had written a couple of them for me.
Yeah.
But the rest of them, no. I wanted to help people be better.
Did you write them all as well?
I did. Yep, I wrote them.
Have you? When did you start writing? So you said you started directing.
I wrote on Dukes.
And okay, so you started writing and directing on Dukes in your 20s. Did you know you had this talent, or and it was something that you always wanted to do, or where did you find it on Dukes? You were
talent. Talent is up for grabs. Talent is anybody's definition. But as far as knowing that I wanted to tell my own stories in what I felt was my own unique way, early, like 8, 9 years old. A big movie buff, would go to the movie theaters, see a double feature every Saturday at Mount Kisco, and studied plot lines, studied storylines, fell in love with William Goldman. And why does Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid work? What is it about Electric Horseman that's different than just about every other Western ever done? How could that same guy write All the President's Men? So I was fascinated. And he's a structure freak and a dialogue freak, but a structure freak. Great book called Adventures in the Screen Trade. If you haven't read it, It's old now, but it's a great read. But I always wanted to tell my own stories my own way. And like I alluded to earlier, I feel God said that's where you're supposed to be, so get there. So I was never like ravenous. Ooh, I want to be in the movies. I always knew I was going to be. It's odd, but it has nothing to do with talent. It has to do with
what you were meant to do.
Design. Yeah, it has to do with your design, your focus, your tenacity, the thickness of your skin. But still, I don't have to be really tough. If I didn't get this thing, then it's okay. That wasn't the thing. It's coming. It's coming. And it has several times.
Okay, so you have such a vast career and have done so much on every aspect in entertainment. What's your favorite? Like, meaning, like, is it singing? Because you also are, you've done how many albums? 11 albums? 12?
No,
15?
it's 24.
24 albums.
With Alicia and I did 14. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Okay. So you've toured around the world singing.
Yeah.
What do you love the most? Like, or does it just kind of comes when the day you wake up and something clicks and you're like, okay.
The trite answer is, whichever one I'm doing at the time.
Yeah.
But and that's true. But really what I enjoy and why Alicia and I were so wonderful together is we were both big dreamers and would not take no for an answer. So for me, the trifecta of coming up with an idea or having an idea smack me in the face and write a screenplay. And then
how long does it take? Go ahead, finish that.
It depends on the level of inspiration. The last one we did, To Die For, that is like times 50 more popular than or had done better than any of our other movies. I wrote in 2 weeks.
Wow.
So you're inspired by something and you write a screenplay. Then you talk with the director, who is you, who knows you wrote it to be shot easily, right? But then
you have to negotiate with that guy. Is that difficult to negotiate with that guy?
Sometimes. No, not at all. Not at all, because that's Alicia's job. But then I have the one that I don't think you know that I do this, but I'm the editor as well. So, wow, the writing, directing, editing is where I really, really thrive, and I would say that's just called telling the story. So that's what I like. That's what I like the most. If I had to pick one of those, I would say the one I'm doing at the time.
It's a safe answer, but it's true. And in a lot of ways, It's so true, though. I mean, and
it's not it's when you are inspired, you know this better than anybody I know. You're inspired by something, you write it down, and you just can't wait to get it on film, and then you can't wait to put it in the right order.
It drives you.
So it's kind of all the same. It's all the same thing because you're giving a visual representation of that moment of inspiration you had when nobody was around.
Yeah.
Right? And that is magic. That is a gift from God, to be able to spend your life doing that which makes you that happy. In my case, and I'm sad now, but in my case, having someone to be the producer that also shares that vision, that also is your wife, is unbelievable. Unbelievable. That's why when anybody ever says, you produce, I said, no, I don't. I do not produce. Alicia produced the movies. I do not produce the movies. She produced that movie. I only watched it.
John, you have a studio in Louisiana, is that correct?
Yes, I'm here now.
And what's it called?
John Schneider Studios.
And is that how people look it up if they want to rent space or shoot there, or do you get a lot of outside productions in?
Yep. Or just go to my Facebook. I tell you what, I have an app. It's called johnschneider.com. Go to the App Store, John Schneider.
It's an app? Wow.
I have an app. I know.
I didn't even know you could have an app. I mean,
you can have an app. I didn't know you could have a logo like that. So,
I didn't either. Dylan helped me get that logo.
Yeah. I have an app,
cool.
and so people can check it out here.
How often do you have people shooting at your studio there?
Some people were supposed to come and scout it today, but it's been like 106, so nobody showed up.
What's the tax rebate in Louisiana right now?
I believe it's 35. It might be 40. It depends on if for me it's 45.
Because you live there.
Because I live here, and I've lived here for 10 years, and we are like 8 or 9 miles outside of the zone. But rather than penalize us, what the state did is they gave an extra 5% incentive for people who shot outside of the zone. So Louisiana's cool. Yeah.
Wow.
Louisiana's cool. Check and make sure that is still in play.
Mm-hmm.
I believe it is. Somebody would have told me, although I've been rather distracted the last year.
So your house is your house there on part of the grounds?
It is, yes.
So can you look out and then can you see people shooting on your thing, or do you just keep them far away so you never have to, see?
What, like people stopping by? Nobody knows. People work here. People work. Yeah, so they're not looking like, oh, let me see. And we don't make announcements or anything. And we Alicia and I called it here. You kind of are filming in a bubble. Now, of course, if you want to go outside of very rural swamps and rivers and lakes, although right now the swamps are kind of dried up, it's really dry. You have to venture out into Baton Rouge and deal with permits and all that kind of stuff. But we film here just behind our gates and do what we want, when we want, with whom we want.
Amazing. I need to come shoot there. I want to come shoot there sometime soon.
Yeah, it's a specific look.
Yeah, but I would still love to figure something out to do that. That'd be great. All right, so you when are you going on tour next? Do you have an album coming out?
Well, I have a new album coming out. It's going to be released on Orange Friday, which in my world is in honor of the General Lee. That is the Friday after Thanksgiving. I do not comply.
What do you mean? What does that mean? You don't comply?
It's Orange Friday. It's not Black Friday.
Got it.
Orange.
All right, and how long have we been running this? That it is it's the General Lee, right? Or we just call it Orange Friday?
It's Orange Friday.
Okay.
At johnschneiderstudios.com. That's johnschneiderstudios.com. We've had Orange Friday ever since Alicia and I met. So 8 years.
It's a great idea. It's a great idea. All right. How many General Lees do you have? Because at one point in time, you had a lot of them.
I had, I think 4 or 5 at one point. I have 2 right now.
Okay.
I have 2. One that my bride got me for my birthday in 2018.
Wow.
I mean, my gosh, really? A total frame-off rotisserie restored 69 Charger. The other one is a kind of a clone that we jumped and then ran under a tree. It looks like a General Lee, but it's actually a Crown Vic with a body put on it.
Okay.
Those are for you motorheads out
now,
there.
you had a General Lee that went up on sale years ago on, it was like Yahoo.
Barrett Jackson auction, yep.
What happened there at the end of it?
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I did sell it at Barrett Jackson, but it was on eBay. That was around the time we were making your movie.
It was a big, I don't know which one, because I just remember that was a big deal. Like, it was on the cover of all, I thought it was Yahoo. I just remember looking at Yahoo, and there it was. Like, it was.
That was eBay. It sold for $9.6 million or something, and then the guy claimed that he never pressed a button and never made a bid, and so it made the guy under him at like 9.2 go away. It was a disaster.
Oh,
and in those days,
you were selling it though, right? Was it you or some auction place selling?
No, it was me.
It was you. Wow.
I was auctioning it on eBay. It was eBay.
Yeah, it was massive.
So when eBay closed on Friday, it wasn't open again until Monday morning. So I had 2 days to wonder whether I had either sold my car for $9.6 million or not sold my car.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a fun weekend.
Did you end up selling that car or?
I did. I sold it at the Barrett Jackson auction a year or so later for a good amount, nothing like that. not under $500,000, but right. It was the most that kind of a car had been sold.
The fact that you had this, though, but I think, if I remember correctly, when you were in your 20s, you had the idea, the what's the word I'm looking for? Foresight to buy some of these General Lees, right, and then sell them. Didn't you have a bunch of them?
Well, I had
when the
kind
show
of the
ended?
Opposite of that. After 10 or 15 years after the show was over, I started buying 69 Chargers and making General Lees out of them.
Oh, okay.
I did not buy the cars from the show. I wish I had. But what I did do is, while we were doing the show, I would buy 69 Chargers and sell them to the transportation department. But then a beautiful 440 69 Charger was, it'd be hard to pay $2,700 for it.
Wow.
So, it was.
I just remember one of my mechanics actually would store Catherine's Daisy Dukes. Catherine, what's her last name? Catherine
Bach.
Catherine Bach. Catherine Bach's General Lee at here in Agora Hills, and.
Oh, well, he was working on it.
He was working on it. Yeah, but then sometimes it would be there for a little longer, and it was the coolest thing to see.
They worked on when I had 4 of them in my garage at once. I think I had all the brakes done there. I know Agora Car Care.
Great guy. Yeah. That's hilarious.
Yeah, right there behind the Frosty Freeze or whatever that thing. And chicken joint. Yeah, 1 hour. Yeah. I don't know.
That's hilarious. All right, John, you're in the middle of something. I got 3 minutes left. All right, really quick. You're on a show. Can we talk about this show that is happening? You still can't talk about it. Okay.
No.
Can't talk about it. Well, we're going to have you back to talk about that.
We'll talk about it. I'm very excited about the new album. And it is an album that will help those who are grieving grieve. Because it's hard. It's hard. The album is called We're Still Us, because I believe we are. I believe when I take my last breath here, my next one, she'll be looking at me. And I can't wait, but I will. And that's one of the songs. I can't wait to see you again, but I will. So don't worry about me. I will.
I'm sorry for what you're going through, and I'm sorry for your loss. And you are in our prayers. It's that's a whole other. We'll have that conversation. I love you, brother.
There's no place to put it.
Yeah. Thank you very much for everything that you've done for inspiring me early on, and also being an inspiration to so many people, millions and millions of people like around the world. Wow. And I seriously think you just do not age. You look so good, and you are such a brother and such an inspiration, and I love every single time.
You don't look any different yourself there, young man.
I love every time I get to have a conversation with you. I sincerely do, and I hope. Thank you very much for doing some of our movies.
People are always introducing us, which I think is great.
All right, John.
You take care, my friend.
Thank you. I'll talk to you soon. God bless you too, brother. Well, guys, what an incredible episode. I love that man, Roger.
He's an icon. He's great.
He is an icon.
He's got such a sweet, tender heart.
Yeah.
And it just comes out. What a genuine guy he really is. I mean, I enjoyed this interview a lot.
He's a legend.
And you could just feel his heart.
Well, hey, listen to us on Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, The White House Pod. And if you want to see John Schneider, then go to our YouTube at David A.R. White. And we love you guys, and we hope you have a great day. God bless you. See you next time.